Hi, Jennifer Priest here, and I want to show you this really cool material called Rowlux. It is from this company called Roland Industries, and you might have seen it on like drums and all kinds of other really cool signage and stuff like in the rock world, but you can actually use it for crafting. So what's really cool is it's very flexible and you can cut it with your Sizzix machine. Here I have a flower that I die cut from some of this Rowlux illusion film, and you can also emboss it. And so here's a piece that I embossed with a embossing folder. So I'll show you how to do that right now. The first thing you're going to need is your platform from your Sizzix Big Shot machine, and this is the older Big Shot. So you're going to need the platform and you're going to need to put it on tab 1. Now once it's on tab 1, you're going to put the bottom of your sandwich there. You're going to open up your embossing folder, and this is a Quickutx embossing folder from way back in the day. Put your piece of Rowlux illusion film inside your embossing folder and set it on the bottom piece of the platform, and then put the top shim in, and then you're going to run it through. So let me turn it the other way so I can actually crank it. And it's easy as that. So what's really cool is it does emboss, so then you can ink or paint over this, but it maintains the illusion properties and also the translucence. So if you wanted to use it as is, you could. Instead of like if you're going to heat emboss, it would be opaque on here. This is really cool because you can get the texture and you still have the pattern that's in the film as well as the shimmer. So now that we've embossed this piece of Rowlux film, what we want to do is really make that embossing stand out. So what I have here is some ColorBox Mixed Media Inks CHOX, designed by Donna Salazar. And what I'm going to do is just kind of wipe this film over the ink pad to transfer the ink onto the raised parts of the film. And it's kind of subtle, you guys might not be able to see it, but once it's on the finished project, it's going to be totally awesome. Now this ink is going to be wet here on the film, so what I want to do is use a heat gun to gently dry the ink. If I heat this too much, it's going to take some of the luster away, and this is on the back of the film. So what I want to do is just gently heat it so that it will dry. Now you have to be careful because the film has metallic type qualities to it, so it's going to get hot. So you don't want to heat it too much, and you don't want to necessarily handle it right with your hand. Alright, so that's going to be on the back of this card front. So even if it was still wet, it's going to be okay because it will be glued onto my card. And now I'm going to choose one of these little guys to do some stamping on. Just going to ink up a little Hero Art stamp here. And I'm using ColorBox Crafters ink. You don't have to use that ink. Oh, I don't like how that came out. You can use any kind of ink that you want to use. Now because Crafters ink is a pigment ink, you have to heat set it to get it to dry all the way. So that's what I'm going to do here. Ooh, I kind of like this other side of this. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and heat set this guy. And what I'm going to do now to ink the edges is I'm going to use a ColorBox Stylus and Tip set. So I'm going to take this Donna Salazar CHOX ink and I'm going to ink up the stylus and just directly ink my paper. Now what's nice about the stylus is it's going to save your ink pad from getting totally damaged. When you do this direct to paper inking, it can really shred your ink pads. And this material that is on the end of the stylus, the little tip, is actually the same material that most of the ColorBox ink pads is made from. It's a little bit different than this CHOX pad material, but this is going to give you a really nice, fine inked edge here. Alright, next I want to go ahead and stamp my sentiment. Okay, now that I've stamped my sentiment here, I am going to again use my stylus and tip to ink the edges of my circle. So now I'm going to layer these two guys. And I have some little fun gold doily here that I'm going to stick behind. So I'm going to use this Bazzill adhesive. Oops, let's try this. And adhere this to my card front. Now, when you're going to glue your card front to your card face, you want to make sure that the adhesive is going to be behind the paper part, that way it'll be hidden. Any adhesive that you put, it tends to want to show through the film onto the front. So just make sure you put adhesive really good on this area that's going to be hidden. And you could tack this down with some stitching, or even some little staples or something here on the edges if you wanted to do that.